more than grateful to the 200,000 people or so who've gotten into a safe aircraft.
Yeah.
Particularly the GPO. All this communication came from the GPO lines. Yeah. Extraordinary.
Rather appropriately, the Douglas A-26C Invader taking off there. A later model of the Thank you again. With a very smooth surface for better aerodynamics, to have slotted landing flaps and remotely controlled gun turrets. There were two main production models of this aeroplane. Here it is, the Douglas A-26C Invader. Evaluation of this type was conducted by A-26B models with the 5th Air Force in the Southwestern Pacific Theatre. It was that invaders were deployed to Europe in September 1944 for the 9th Air Force, starting off with the 386 Bomb Group at Great Dunmow in Essex, which operated the Martin B-26 Marauder before switching to the Invader. B and C models, the B having a solid nose, the C models we see here with a glazed one, were fully assigned to the 416th Bomb Group based at Melun-Vieroche at that point south of Paris that November. With the 9th Air Force they flew bombing, strafing, night interdiction and tactical reconnaissance missions. They also scored 7 aerial victories. Such was this type's performance. Production of the Invader actually ended with just over 2,500 examples having been built in 1945, but its service career was far from over. It was redesignated as the B-26, B for bomber, in 1948. They were deployed in numbers to post-war Germany among other locations, and then came Korea. Locomotives and rail trucks, and the invaders deployed to Korea for that early 1950s war included this very one. This aircraft served with the 730th Bomb Squadron of the 452nd Bomb Wing at Busan, South Korea from June 1951. It became the mount of the squadron commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Howe, who christened it Sweet Eloise II after his wife, and over the next 2 years it would notch up almost 1,900 hours of combat flying in Korea. It was lucky during that time to survive a direct hit in the bomb bay from flak. Until it passed into private hands as an historic aeroplane. But by then, remarkably, the Invader as a type had been back into again as the A-26A to avoid the controversial use in that theatre of the B for bomber designation. They've been reworked by on-market. This aircraft was acquired by its current owner, Marcin Kubrak, in 2022, and the transatlantic ferry flight took place this summer, arriving at its base at Katowice in Poland in late July. It then flew on to Duxford in August and has been lodging here since, making several display appearances, of which this is the first here. Colonial war in Angola, and the Thais used them, including many actions against rebel groups. And having been trained through the CIA, Cuban anti-communist forces flew invaders during the Bay of Pigs invasion with the aircraft painted in false Cuban markings. Very popular after the war as well as a fast executive aircraft, converted by On-Mark Engineering, the On-Mark Marksman, and as I said in relation to this one, as a firebomber. An aircraft with a top speed of around 355 miles an hour, 2,000 horsepower each from the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp 18-cylinder radial engines, and very heavily armed up to 8.5-inch machine guns in the nose, plus 2 each in the dorsal and ventral turrets, 6 in the wings.